Good afternoon. My name's Kate Farrer and I'm the CEO at Brighter Super. Today I have the pleasure of introducing and moderating our presentation on the state of retirement in Queensland. Joining me and co-presenting the findings today are Irene Giamazia, who is Head of Research at Investment Trends, and Jennifer McSpadden, Head of Retirement at Brighter Super. Today's presentation is the result of a partnership between Brighter Super and Investment Trends. Together, we recently launched a report on the insights into Australian retirement needs, and today we are taking this one step further, looking at the state of retirement in Queensland. This research represents the longest running, biggest scale and deepest dive on Australia's pre-retiree and retiree needs. The research findings are based on a quantitative online survey conducted by Investment Trends of 5,315 Australian adults over the age of 40, conducted in July and August of this year. Today, we're introducing the Brighter Super Ready for Retirement Index. This index measures Queenslanders' confidence in achieving their ideal retirement lifestyle, incorporating factors like the retirement readiness of pre-retirees and the confidence of retirees in funding their retirement. It also incorporates the overall suitability of super funds for retirement. We hope today's presentation sparks meaningful conversations and contributes to new ways for us to collectively engage, educate and enhance Queenslanders' retirement outcomes. During today's webinar, we encourage you to submit questions. You can do so by clicking on the live Q&A tab located on the right-hand side of the screen. At the end of the presentation, we will get through as many questions as we can, and if we don't get to them all today, we'll come back to you in coming days. Before we start today's presentation, Brighter Super acknowledges the Jagera and Turrbal people who are the traditional custodians of the land from where this webinar is being held today. We recognise their ongoing connection to land, waters and community. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We acknowledge and celebrate the continuation of a living culture that has a unique role in this region. I'd like to welcome our members, non-members, advisors and key stakeholders who are joining us today. I'd like to take a moment to share a little bit about Brighter Super. So Brighter Super is a 100% member-owned, Queensland-based industry fund resulting from a merger between LGR Super and Energy Super and the acquisition of Suncorp Super. Since then, we've grown to over $33 billion in funds under management, and we have around 285,000 members. That makes us the fourth largest non-government financial business in Queensland. Next year, we'll be celebrating our 60th year, and I'm pleased to say that we're a fund that continues to reduce our administration fees for members. We've recently announced that we're lowering our fees further from January. This marks the third time in 3 years that Brighter Super has decreased our administration fees, which will take the average fee reduction to 40% for fund members from our mergers since 2022. Brighter Super is delighted to partner with Investment Trends to deliver this comprehensive snapshot into the state of retirement in Queensland. It's a collaboration based on the Brighter Super and Investment Trends 2024 Retirement Income Report. The research that we're sharing today is critical in helping us better understand our members and forms part of Brighter Super's retirement income strategy as required under the Retirement Income Covenant. Our recent national report highlighted that pre-retirement confidence has hit its lowest point in a decade. While retirees are facing heightened concerns, overall though, their confidence levels remain high. A crucial insight, bridging the advice gap, is key to securing a better retirement for Australians. Today's research goes further, exploring the state of retirement in Queensland, revealing though that Queensland trails the national benchmark for retirement confidence. It also reveals a regional divide, with South East Queensland outperforming the rest of the state, and regional Queensland reports higher concerns and lower confidence in funding their retirement. Pleasingly though, Brighter Super member confidence remains strong, outperforming the national and Queensland results. We are thrilled to have the opportunity to share this comprehensive snapshot of Australia's retirement preparedness and the state of retirement in Queensland. Following this webinar today, you'll receive an email to download our exclusive copy of our white paper. That'll also be available on our website to download today. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Irene for an overview of the Ready for Retirement Index and our key findings.
Thank you very much, Kate. And thanks, Brighter Super, for your partnership. It's been a pleasure to work with you on this research. So I'm going to go ahead and present those findings. So the first one is really around retirement confidence amongst pre-retirees, and that we've actually now reached a 10-year record low. So we start this with a simple but also important question. So we've asked pre-retirees here how well prepared they feel for retirement. And this year, only 29% said either very well prepared or somewhat prepared. And as you can see on the screen there, this is a significant decline from the 60% that was measured in 2021. And actually, conversely, on the other side, if we're looking at the green bars, we're actually seeing as well that the proportion feeling unprepared has increased to over half. And we can also reasonably assume that those who say, I don't know, are not feeling prepared. So quite a significant place to actually contextualize the research that we've carried out here. All right, so there is certainly an important clarification to make, though, because when we look at how the 29% is positioned based on how members or perhaps based on the expectation that members have around their super balance, there is a very clearly linear correlation between the average balance that they expect to receive when they retire and their current level of preparedness. And I think the point that we're making here on screen really underscores the importance of retirement projection estimates and the utility of a tool like the Brighter Super Retirement Calculator. So the slide will show that those who expect to receive, 500K to 1 million are 3 times more likely to feel prepared than those who expect to receive less than 100K. So this is perhaps, a bit of a trivial statement, but really important to emphasize the importance of those projections. Now, the next slide on screen really dives a bit deeper into the reasons why we have those lower levels of preparedness that we started with. So the left-hand side shows the concerns that pre-retirees have around their retirement. And if I kind of just take you to the bars that are highlighted there on screen, we can see the highest on the left-hand side is 53% saying inflation and rising prices. So the current cost of living crisis that we are all experiencing is certainly hurting pre-retirees and really dampening those confidence levels. Second, physical ailment and illness is also a concern for pre-retirees. But if I now take you to the right-hand side, we can see that that's the number one concern for retirees. So we will actually come back to that point a number of times during this webinar, because health, as the study has uncovered, is a really, really important indicator of retiring well. So we'll come back to that later on. So to finish here, just around the concerns, so we wanted to overlay here the view of Queenslanders as well. So again, we're showing pre-retirees on the left-hand side and retirees on the right, and in the foreground, Queensland members. So we can see here that Queensland members appear to have a lot more concerns than their counterparts in other parts of the nation. But perhaps what's standing out the most is concerns around regulatory changes, concerns about having enough money left for aged care and long-term care, and also health, which we mentioned right from the outset. So maybe to just recap here, we've spoken about retirement confidence reaching a 10-year low. Only 5% of members are saying that they feel very well prepared, and 23% saying that they feel somewhat prepared, low for the past couple of years. And when it comes to the concerns trends that are emerging supporting this state of affairs, we're really seeing that health and inflation are the highest contributors. All right, I now want to just move on to have another estimation of that sort of sentiment that pre-retiree members are facing. And the measure that we've used here is what we refer to as the retirement funding gap. So let me explain what this is. So here on screen, you see the results of two different questions. So the first one on the blue line there at the top of the screen is how much money do you expect to receive when you retire, which will enable you to live a comfortable retirement lifestyle. So how much money do you expect you will need to live your desired retirement lifestyle? So on a median basis, pre-retirees are telling us that that sum is $4,200 per month. The second question is, how much money do you actually expect to receive on a monthly basis? And on a median basis, we're seeing the figure average there at $2,900. All right, so the shortfall between those two figures is 31%. And we can see that in recent years, that number hasn't actually changed very much at all. So the shortfall that pre-retirees are expecting between what they would need and what they expect to receive has remained really large. Now, I want to draw your attention to the bottom of the chart and the percentages that are written there. So 62% is the proportion of pre-retirees that are actually experiencing that shortfall. Now, perhaps I'd like to just add some comments around the 4,200. I think it can be debated whether that figure is a reasonable number, especially if one owns their own home or have lower outgoings when they retire. But what we've done, actually, as part of the research as well, is to work out what the 4,200 represented as an income replacement ratio. And the figure actually lands at about 80%, which seems to land in line with some of the ASFA estimates that are available. So if pre-retirees are perhaps basing their projections on those estimates, they're finding that they will need that amount, and right now they're seeing that they will fall short. All right, so what are some of the remediation measures that they're intending to take? So here on screen, that 62% of pre-retirees that is experiencing a gap, that group is giving us their opinions on what they are planning to do to actually improve their position. So first, retire later than planned, and we're actually seeing that pre-retirees are quite open to retire, to work a bit longer. The second most cited there is contributing more to super. So it's really pleasing to see that intentions to contribute more to super is increasing over time as a remediation action. And we can also note that in the purple bar there, Queensland pre-retirees are more likely to say that contributing more to super would be an action that they take if they feel that they're going to fall short. So that's certainly something to encourage. But the other point that is worth mentioning is the third most cited there on screen, which is seeking advice from a financial advisor. And so the fact that the proportion of members that see advice as a way to actually bridge their gap to retirement, the fact that that proportion is decreasing is certainly a cause for concern, we think. And so it is incumbent on the industry to really explain and educate members around the importance of advice in enabling them to retire well. We're certainly holding out hope with the DBFO legislation now having passed through Parliament and some of its implementation expected to start, shortly and certainly in the new year. Now, the fourth aspect is also worth calling out, and you see it sort of come through in the next slide as well. So the fourth aspect is moving to investment with higher returns, which is what Queensland pre-retirees are more likely to say they might do as a way to sort of mitigate the shortfall that we've just spoken about. All right. So when we then move to Another key finding here, so inflation and health emerging as a top concern. We really just want to revisit that and perhaps dive deeper into health. So as Kate mentioned earlier, there's certainly a bit of a divide that we've seen in the Retirement Readiness Index when we looked at regional Queensland and urban areas, and certainly southeast Queensland. And this is perhaps this is certainly a reflection of the fact that there is a divide in terms of accessing a range of services, including health. All right, so what do we have here? Back to the slide that you've already seen earlier, we're seeing health as an important concern that both retirees on the right-hand side hold and pre-retirees on the left-hand side have as well. So when we ask retirees right now, so with the benefit of hindsight, if we were asking retirees that currently are feeling that they're living, a comfortable retirement, and there's 53% of those retirees that say that they're living perfectly comfortably, what do they think are actually the elements that most contributed to them actually living comfortably right now? So we can see that the number one aspect that they mention is maintaining a healthy lifestyle to be able to reduce their medical expenses today. So health is that really important enabler to being able to retire well, if we take that kind of hindsight wisdom of retirees. Now, the other thing that is worth mentioning again is the foreground here, which represent Queensland retirees. We see that 65%, and the number one on this chart, of Queensland retirees are saying that the keys to their success have been to take advantage of government benefits and concessions, to reduce or eliminate their debt before they retired, and over-indexing as well, moving to investment with higher returns, which was one of the remediation actions that we were seeing pre-retirees also mentioned to a significant degree. So for Queenslanders, the picture is a bit different there, and it's really, really important to be able to provide education around, what government benefits and concessions they have access to. All right, so just moving on to perhaps more of hindsight wisdom. We have here retirees telling us that the number one thing that they wish in hindsight they would have changed when it comes to preparing for retirement are a number of aspects, as you can see here on screen. So first off, I should say that about 40% of that population say they wouldn't have changed anything at all. We will look at their profile in just one second. But the number one thing that retirees will change if they were able to do it over again is contributing more to super. 38% cite that reason there. Now, what we've also done is overlay a view of those retirees, but split by something that we're actually seeing emerge more and more, and this is home ownership. So currently, we're finding that 14% of the pool of those who have retired in the past year are actually still paying rent, and 10% are still paying off a mortgage. So there is a significant proportion of people amongst those who have retired recently that are actually not owning their home outright. And for those people, some of the things that they wish they could have done differently are, of course, contribute more to super, which is the number one option there, but also perhaps reduce their spending. And for those who are renting, we see a significant over-indexing to moving to investments with higher returns as well. So the ability for us to be able to present those different investment options to our pre-retiree members and allow them to make those informed choices is really, really important. So I've moved there to the next slide, which then just simply shows you a profile of those retirees. So those who say they wouldn't have done anything differently, as we can see, are significantly wealthier. The vertical axis is their average super balance, much higher than everyone else, and the horizontal axis is their average wealth outside of super, again, much higher than everyone else. All right. So let's move to the fourth key finding here, which is really around information and guidance. So with those dire levels around preparedness, what next? What should we do about this state of affairs? Information is the key battleground. It's really, really important to educate members so that they can take informed action. And we just have a really simple slide to show this. So number one, on the left-hand side on screen, what we're seeing is the range of information sources that members turn to actually seek retirement-related information. And their super fund is that number one source that they know and trust and will turn to for information. We can't help but note that the proportion of members saying that they're turning to their super fund has slightly declined in the past reporting period. So it is interesting to note that this is being, superseded, but certainly other channels are emerging. So on screen, we're seeing that members are increasingly turning to their friends and family, increasingly turning to sources like social media, YouTube, and the likes. So it's just really important to take heed of those emerging trends as well. Now, the right-hand side is those actions that members took when they sought information and received information from any of the sources that are on the left. And so, pleasingly, we're seeing 26%, and the number one most taken action there being making voluntary super contributions. So, education, information, when it is effective, does deliver results. We have members taking action by way of making voluntary contributions, or you're preparing a will, or taking a range of actions around their super when they consume information. All right, and perhaps to make that point even more strongly, this slide here on screen, where we're going right back to where we started, and look at the preparedness level. You may recall we started with 29% of members currently feeling prepared about retirement. Now, when we look at those who took no action at all, that level is actually much lower at 19%. But perhaps more importantly, members who took any action at all in relation to their super are actually feeling significantly more confident. And so I think this is certainly highlighting the importance of actually getting information that has calls of actions, really sort of very clear calls of actions embedded. Now highlighted there as well, we can see that those who actually change their investment options, and we were talking about moving investments to, perhaps high growth options and the likes, we can see that those who change their investment options, 55% are feeling prepared for retirement, again, versus, 29%, which is the control group. And those who made voluntary contribution, amongst that group, we have 48% saying that they already feel more prepared. All right. So this information battle is maybe can be equated to a mountain to climb, I would say. So there's certainly a lot of work to do. And one example of this is the question that you have on screen. So here we've asked pre-retirees whether they are aware that the super fund currently offer retirement income products. And so we can see that 61% of pre-retirees have no idea and not sure whether the super fund offer one of those. And so this is perhaps, the mountain to climb. But some green shoots, the 61% is actually a decline from 65% last year and from 75% 2 years ago. So we're making, great strides here in terms of progress. But I think it's still important to acknowledge that 61% is quite a big gap to close. All right. So just to kind of close off on the product side of things, we've asked members here if they were hypothetically thinking about any retirement income products. And so this doesn't really have to be related to the super fund per se, but very broadly, if you were to purchase a retirement income product today, what would be the features that you really value in that product? And so we're seeing there that competitive fees and charges, cost, is the most important consideration, as it is in any purchasing decision. But certainly for retirees, there on screen, we have seen an increase proportion of those retirees that say cost is important. The second most cited, income that lasts for life, however long I live. So the concept of lifetime income is certainly an important feature as well, and increasingly so. And finally, the ability to access funds during the life of the product. So that flexibility of access to capital is also perhaps the third pillar, if you will, of this construction there. So members are looking for products that offer those three aspects. Perhaps the degree to which each of the aspects will matter for each member will be different based on their individual needs, but it is really important to take note of the fact that there are a number of factors that would influence members' decision as to the retirement income product that ends up being suitable for them. All right. Let us now move to the new index, the Retirement Readiness Index, which we launched this year. All right. So this index is built on, it's quite a simple index, I think, which makes it even more powerful. So it's built with the consideration of pre-retiree confidence counting for 50 points in the 100-point index, and retiree confidence counting for the other 50. And so within that, we have measured sentiment, so feeling of preparedness, and also satisfaction with the current super funds offering and the current super fund suitability for retirement. And the same for retirees as well. So there is a measure in both groups of confidence and of satisfaction that we actually have, perhaps a fit-for-purpose fund to support us. So what do the numbers show? So when we look at pre-retirees, so I'm taking you to the bottom of the slide there, we can see that when it comes to preparedness for retirement, this is a number that we've already covered. So 29% are feeling prepared for retirement, which means we have 71% to go. And so our gap is quite wide there. If we look at whether they believe their super fund is suitable and able to assist them in actually preparing for their retirement, we actually have a higher proportion. 49% is the rating that we get for overall suitability. So that's already an improvement, but there's still 51% to go. All right. On the retiree side, so certainly the picture looks a lot brighter. So 60% is the confidence level, and then we have 40% to go. And when it comes to satisfaction with the super funds being able to assist or being suitable for retirement, the rating is really, really high indeed at 74% with only a 26% shortfall. So it is very clear that the picture, so perhaps the largest contributor to the deficit that we're seeing right now in the index is certainly coming from pre-retirees. So that's where most of the work is to be done. But certainly amongst retirees as well, the battle is not won, let's say. So overall, we get a total score of 53 out of 100. All right, let's look at how this score has trended over the past few years. So we can see there that if I take you to the right-hand side of this slide, first of all, we can see that the index has declined in the past year. So the figures were 59 last year and 57 2 years ago, and we're sitting now at 53 out of 100, as we've mentioned earlier. If I now take you to the left-hand side of the slide, where we've shown segmentation by state, I think the first observation is that that decline is actually experienced right across every single state, but for one, which is Western Australia. And so one of the key points here, especially as we are in Queensland today, is to observe that at 51, we're actually trailing the national average, and we've declined a little bit in the past reporting period and quite significantly in the past 2 years. And there's certainly much work to do to reverse course. The other distinction that was also mentioned earlier by Kate is around the regional differences. So perhaps the one I'd really like to draw your attention to is the second bar to the right, where we're seeing regional Queensland. So the whole of Queensland is at 51, already lower than the national average, which is 53. But in regional Queensland, we're actually falling under the 50. So we're at 48 there. And so they're certainly indicative of, some of the remediation action that needs to be taken to sort of just bridge that gap between regional Queensland and urban areas. Southeast Queensland is certainly featured really well on that picture as well compared to the Queensland average. And then the final one for today is really kind of shining a light on Brighter Super score as well. So we can see there that while the national average has declined from 59 to 53 in the past year, the index for Brighter Super has actually edged up in that same period, which in contrast really paints certainly a bright picture. So 57 is the score that we've recorded this year, up from 56 last year. And so this really brings me to the end of the key highlights that we wanted to share with you today. Just by way of recap, we really started with that simple question around preparedness. We're seeing that only 29% of Australian pre-retirees are feeling prepared for retirement, suggesting that there's a lot of work to do. When we ask pre-retiree members what they expect to receive in retirement versus what would be necessary to live their best possible retirement, there is a significant gap of 31%. Inflation and health really emerge as those top issues that really need to be addressed with urgency. We also covered how information was important, and actually any information that enables members to take action is worthwhile pursuing, because when members take action, then the level of preparedness and confidence really improve quite significantly. And finally, for the Retirement Readiness Index, Queensland ranking middle of the pack, but certainly falling slightly below the industry. The national average is certainly a metric that will cause, I certainly know, Brighter Super to take action. And the deeper dive that we have around regional Queensland versus urban areas really can guide, can help us perhaps better tailor the action that is pursued there to reverse course. Well, thank you very much. I'll pass over to Jennifer now. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, Irene. It's always so fantastic to hear you talk through those results. So the 2024 Ready for Retirement Index highlights a challenge. Queensland is behind the nation in retirement confidence, with pre-retirees and retirees alike facing increasing uncertainty about their financial future. The divide between regions underscores an opportunity for action, especially in communities outside southeast Queensland, where confidence levels are lower. I'd like to share how Brighter Super is responding to retirement needs of Australians and Queenslanders to help them prepare for a brighter retirement. I'd also like to let you know that this presentation contains general advice. It has been prepared without taking into account your individual objectives, financial situation or needs. We'll be talking about the fund's performance in this presentation, and it's important to note that past performance is not an indicator of future performance. You must not rely on the information alone as a sole or primary source of advice or guidance for the purpose of making decisions about superannuation options. As Head of Retirement for Brighter Super, one finding from this research that I find particularly concerning is that nationally, only 56% of retirees feel satisfied with the income options provided by super funds for retirement. As you can see on the slide, the reasons for dissatisfaction include product complexity and insufficient information or guidance, concerns about product performance and uncertainty about benefits, worries about product costs, preferences for alternative investments outside of super, and a desire for more flexibility in retirement planning. To address these concerns, the report highlights the unique role that super funds can play in developing products that are easy to understand, simple to use, and focused on delivering better retirement outcomes. Importantly, it also reinforces the direct link between receiving financial advice and achieving a secure retirement. Yet we know a significant number of Queenslanders still have unmet advice needs. I'd like to share how Brighter Super is responding to the retirement needs of Australians and Queenslanders to help them prepare for a brighter retirement. Firstly, we're reducing complexity through our new Retire Easy pension. And this proposition really is easy. All members have to do is tick a box on our pension application form and they automatically get paid the minimum pension payment amount each month in accordance with government legislation. Their savings are also invested, so they always have the equivalent of 2 years of minimum pension payments in cash, so they can take care of immediate bills and expenses while the rest of their money continues to grow, with 50% of their remaining balance invested in the balanced option and 50% invested in the growth option. This investment mix is rebalanced to maintain this profile each year. Launched on the 31st of May this year, the Retire Easy pension is the first of our new strategies designed to better support our members in retirement. Retirees can opt in or out of this option and invest in our standard pension option, where they can tailor their own payments and investments at any time. We note many retirees are looking for features in super that go beyond the basics, including a guaranteed income for life and protection against market falls. Brighter Super is currently working on a solution to address these needs, which we will be launching in 2025. The second concern for retirees is that there's not enough information and guidance to help them navigate the complexities of preparing for and living in retirement. The report says that super funds have a unique role in securing Australians' financial futures. For over half of pre-retirees, super funds are the go-to source for retirement information, yet there remains a significant knowledge gap. To address this, Brighter Super has been working hard on educating our members with relevant information and guidance at a time and place that suits them. This year, we engaged David Koch, one of Australia's most respected personal financial journalists and broadcasters. Since introducing Kochie, the average attendance at these seminars has increased by 47%, with a 59% increase in intention to seek financial advice. The fund also offers a range of face-to-face and online member events, seminars, webinars, tools and super health checks, with more than 40 specialist team members engaging with members to support them in retiring with confidence. The third concern for retirees is product performance. The report shows that 2/3 of retirees are not sure if their super fund offers pension products, which is a real shame given their tax advantages, most notably that investment earnings and pension payments are tax-free, but also because they can withdraw part or all of their money at any time after age 60. We are pleased to say that based on analysis of super ratings data, Brighter Super's balanced and growth options performed the strongest when compared to other Queensland-based industry funds in the rolling one-year period to 30 September 2024. At Brighter Super, the balanced and growth options play a significant role in the Retire Easy pension, and the balanced option is the default for pension members who do not make an investment choice. Finally, the fourth concern that retirees have uncertainty about is pension product benefits. An appealing pension product benefit that Brighter Super offers eligible members is what we call a retirement reward. This reward may be paid when they open a pension account with us. This comes about because we set aside money to pay capital gains tax to the ATO when we sell growth assets, such as shares, for a profit. As members move money from super into pension, they don't pay tax. And as we no longer have to pay that tax, instead of keeping it, we give it back to members, and that's why we call it the retirement reward. We calculate it based on the retirement reward rate for that financial year and the amount of money that eligible members have invested in growth assets at the time they open their pension account. Recently, we made a retirement reward even better with a higher reward rate, and I'm pleased to say that in financial year 2024, we increased our maximum retirement reward from $9,500 to $15,200, paying out over $2 million in retirement reward to members. Finally, it's pleasing to note that this year, efforts towards improving Brighter Super's products, performance and education has been recognised, both by members and the industry, winning the Super Review Member Education of the Year Award for 2024, as well as winning CanStar's 2024 Outstanding Value Award for Account-Based Pension. I'd now like to hand back to Kate.
Thank you, Irene and Jen. That was incredibly informative. I must say I'm so proud of the work that Brighter Super has done to lead the way in empowering our members with support, advice, products and tools to help build their retirement confidence. But this is a call to arms for all of us, industry leaders, policymakers and communities, to come together and bridge the gap. Through stronger education, access to financial advice and targeted support, we can ensure that every Queenslander is equipped to face retirement with clarity and certainty. We hope today's overview sparks meaningful conversations and contributes to new ways for us to collectively engage, educate and enhance Queenslanders' retirement outcomes. So we're now going to move to question time. I can see that there have been a few questions coming through throughout the seminar, which is great. As mentioned earlier, if you'd like to submit a question, please do so by clicking on the live Q&A tab located on the right of the screen. We hope to get through as many questions as we can, and if we can't, we'll come back to you in coming days. But to kick things off, we're going to start with a pre-submitted question, which I'm going to direct to Irene. So, Irene, there's been a drop in retirement preparedness amongst pre-retirees. Why do you think that's happened?
Yeah, so as we said, Kate, right from the outset, those drops in preparedness level can be attributed quite directly to the concerns that members say they have. And one of those concerns that we mentioned quite extensively was around cost of living. So inflation, rising prices are certainly, number one in terms of those concerns for members. And I think in a way it can actually be a bit of, I want to call it a false economy, Kate, in, seeing that we need to tighten the purse strings. Very often that actually tempts members to kind of discontinue that very important need to contribute, to make voluntary contribution and contribute more to building their retirement future. And so it's almost like a sort of a cumulative factor where we are feeling the pinch now, but at the same time we're actually not contributing to our retirement as well, which just makes the situation worse. Yes, so that's...
Yes, it's obviously a difficult set of economic circumstances all round. Next one is for you, Jen. Why would I move my super into a pension account? What are the benefits?
Well, as the research showed, not many people actually know about pensions, and it's a real shame because of the tax advantages that these accounts actually offer. So people don't pay tax on their investment earnings, and they don't pay tax on the payments that they get from their account, and they can withdraw their super partly or fully at any time after the age of 60. But there are a few things that people do need to be aware of before they can actually open one of the pension accounts. And that is that they need to have turned 60, they need to have retired permanently or have changed jobs after the age of 60. And once they've done that, they meet what we call a condition of release, which means that they are then able to withdraw part or all of their pension at any time. They do need to withdraw a minimum of at least 4% each year, but it's actually a really good way to save on tax and something for people to think about. But as always, it is important for people to seek financial advice before they go down that path.
Yes, thanks very much, Jen. That tax position is a wonderful attribute, isn't it, in the pension system? Another one for you, Irene, actually. The research highlighted a significant gap in what people think they need in retirement income. So what could people do about that?
Yes, that's a good question, Kate. If I just go back to the specific figures, so people think they need 4,200 on a median basis to retire. So I think we probably start there. So do we really need 4,200 is the question that we need to ask. So certainly when we look at some of the guidelines, it seems about right, seems to fall at about 80% of the current income. But actually, I think some of the other metrics that we can add to, how much people think they need is, what else, I guess what other sources of funding they believe can actually support their retirement funding. So they think they need an amount that could be too high. And secondly, they think they will receive an amount that is probably too low than the reality. And in fact, that amount being too low is further evidenced by the fact that when we ask them what sources of funding they're expecting to use to fund their retirement, of course, super sits at a very comfortable place there, which is great. Australians intend to rely on their super. But the government age pension, for example, is really not a source of funding that pre-retirees really tend to think about. Whereas when we look at the other side for retirees, the government age pension plays a significant role. And so there's clearly an opportunity to educate pre-retiree members around the range of funding sources that they can rely on when they retire, and that would just kind of elevate those preparedness levels, we think. So it's about looking at that top line and also sort of the bottom line on the gap that we've seen.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you for that. Okay, next question for you, Jen. When do I get financial advice? Do I wait until I'm retired, or do I talk to someone sooner?
Well, it is very personal in terms of when you'd like to seek financial advice, but I think that the research is demonstrating that getting financial advice really does help with people's confidence and preparedness to retire. And ultimately, I think the sooner that you can start on that journey, the better, most definitely.
Yes, it's wonderful to hear you talking about education and advice. It certainly plays a really important part in what Brighter Super offers for our members. Okay, a question for Irene. Why is Queensland trailing the national average in terms of retirement confidence?
Oh, that's a great question. So it really has to do with the composition of that index. So you may recall that the biggest shortfall was actually around the position of pre-retirees, falling way behind. If I remember correctly, it's 29% and then 49%. So quite a big road to kind of quite a big gap to bridge. So when we look at the position of Queenslanders, the pre-retirees are actually about the same place, but retirees are actually falling a bit behind the national average when it comes to how confident they're feeling about retiring. So there's a bit more of a gap amongst Queensland than in the national average, which is interesting, again, with the consideration of regional Queensland and that sort of limited access to some services, something that we could dig a bit deeper around. Yeah.
Yes, and obviously Queensland is a more regional state than other states, and so that has a higher weighting. That's very interesting to hear about. Thanks, Irene. One for you, Jen. Does Brighter Super have an annuity product?
We are investigating annuity products as we speak, and that is one of the products that we believe we need to actually introduce. That's what we were talking about when we said that we wanted to help people manage their income for life, have protection against market falls. An annuity product is something we're looking to introduce in 2025.
Very much a live question, I have to say. We're talking about it a lot. It's great. And look forward to being able to deliver on that.
Yep.
I've actually got one more question, I think. We've probably got time for one more. Also to you, Jen, just how is the retirement reward calculated?
Sure. So when someone opens an account-based pension with us, we look at where their money was invested on the day that they opened that account-based pension. And based on how much of their money was invested in a growth asset, we pay against the retirement reward rate for that financial year. And for this year, it was 0.8% of growth assets. And so when we look at what they've actually been paid, we calculate using that rate, and it is then put into their account when it opens.
Thank you. And it certainly was a wonderful conversation being able to bring that rate up.
Definitely.
Last year, wasn't it?
Very exciting.
It's certainly something that we look at a lot.
Yep.
Thank you so much for your questions and for your time today. We very much value your feedback and would appreciate it if you could complete our feedback survey from today's webinar. So at the end of the webinar, the survey is going to pop up on your screen within 30 seconds. That link will also include the opportunity to leave your details if you wish to be contacted by a member of the team. Now, if you submitted a question that we didn't get to today, one of our team will reach out to you as soon as possible. As I said earlier, a copy of our white paper will be emailed to you this afternoon, and it is also available to download on our website at brightersuper.com.au. I'd like to take a quick moment to thank Irene and Jen for your presentations today. Absolutely fascinating to hear from experts on this matter. But to our viewers, thank you again for joining us online, and have a wonderful afternoon.